5 Live Sport.
5 Live Formula One.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the Chequered Flag podcast, post-race here in Bahrain. The sun has set. Well, obviously the sun set before the race even started, didn't it? But we're in the paddock with the trees all wrapped around with their fairy lights, and everybody is starting to head off towards the paddock exit. The important people are. Anyway, everybody else has to still clear everything up and get ready for the race in Saudi Arabia in 2 weeks' time. Alongside me, we have Sam Bird, the former Mercedes F1 reserve driver, current Formula E racer for Jaguar TCS Racing, and our F1 pit lane reporter, Rosanna Tennant, in a race that Max Verstappen won. Red Bull domination, first and second on the grid, first and second at the flag with him and Sergio Perez. Third across the line was the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso, finishing ahead of Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton. We'll give you the full order in a bit. But, Sam, Red Bull domination, kind of what was anticipated coming into the weekend. As we said yesterday on the qualifying podcast, we've had a real roller coaster of emotions about what's going to happen, and it turns out what we thought was going to happen sort of happened.
We turned up expecting this to happen. We then went through 3 practice sessions and a qualifying session.
We then went through a denial stage.
That sort of threw up other things, and then we got back to normality with a Red Bull domination. And I think it could have been worse. I think that they could have really disappeared if they wanted to, but they just kept the gap after 2/3 race distance and settled in just to make sure the cars got across the line. And it is a little bit worrying that third place Fernando Alonso, who, by the way, for me, was outstanding today to get a podium, but he was 40 seconds, the best part of 40 seconds behind Max Verstappen, the winner. Like, how can we expect anybody to close that gap?
Well, let's hear from the race winner, Max Verstappen.
Max, well done. What a dominant performance. What were you struggling with, if anything, out there today?
I just tire deck. I mean, everyone, of course, had the tires dropping off a lot. Maybe we had less issues, but it's still all about managing that. I think we did a good job with that. But this track is always difficult. I mean, it might look like it was quite straightforward, but it isn't. Very pleased with the team result. I think it couldn't have been a better day for us.
You must have had a bit of time out there to think about what you want to change on the car. Yesterday you told me you weren't that comfortable in quali. What are you going to change going into Jeddah? Do you need to change anything?
I think, the setups are anyway completely different for a track like that, so the car will be behaving anyway differently. We'll have a look. I'm confident that we can do a good job there again. But for sure we'll analyze again everything what happened this weekend and try to be even better next week.
Well done, thank you.
So that was Max Verstappen talking to our very own Rosanna. What sort of body language did you get from him? What sort of impression? Was that just a man who's just finished a Sunday afternoon drive and was fairly chilled?
Yeah, it was almost a continuation of 2022. Not jubilant, not buoyant, not super smiley. I think he has already got a few things he wants to work on for the next time out in Saudi Arabia. The thing for me is he's driving the same car as Checo. He was 12 seconds up the road. That's huge, really, for Checo to close. And he's going to have his work cut out, isn't he, to beat his teammate. And that's the number one ask for Formula One drivers, isn't it, Sam?
Well, I think about 7 of those seconds were in the first stint alone when Checo was actually behind and fighting Charles Leclerc. So I don't think the gap was that big. I actually think Checo's had a pretty strong weekend. He was pretty much well clear, actually, of Max for most of the practice sessions. Max's ability to wring its neck in qualifying and then his race pace is alarmingly fast. But I think Checo can be happy with his work this weekend. Remember, there's one race down of 23, and he came second. I mean, it's not the end of the world.
We try and sort of sell the race a bit during commentary, but I think there was a time on, lap 3 or 4 where Verstappen was 3.5 seconds up the road. And you and I think, and BBC Chief F1 writer Andrew Benson all sort of looked at each other with a little raise of the eyebrows because we knew Verstappen was gone at that point, didn't we?
Barring a disaster, he was gone. And Leclerc obviously tried the strategy to go new softs at the start, try and get ahead of the Red Bulls and then try somehow to hang on or pull away incredibly, but the Red Bull's too strong. It's just too strong, and he is too strong. And we said it at the end of the show, you know, good drive from Verstappen, but that's his level. That's for him, that's probably a 7 out of 10. For other people, that would be an 11 out of 10, but for him, that's just an average day's work. That's how good he is. I'm not disrespecting him. I'm trying to say he's that brilliant in that racing car, and it's such harmony between the Red Bull car and Max Verstappen.
I think that it was a really dominant performance from Verstappen, wasn't it? And Perez did. The thing is, most of that gap, as you say, was made up in the first sort of stint, the gap to Perez. Perez, after the race, this is what he had to say.
Checo, well done, a great result for the team. How do you reflect on that race and your performance?
Yeah, I think it was a good start for all of us, for the team. Yesterday we were really competitive, today again. So in general it was a pretty strong start to the season.
I don't need to tell you that you were quite far behind Max. What can you work on over the coming weeks to close that gap?
Well, I think we lost everything today with Charles. I think we are a lot closer than ever. So we just gotta keep pushing, and it's a long season, you know. So we gotta be able to deliver.
Well, that was Perez talking to me in the media pen. Always going to have his work cut out with a teammate like Max Verstappen. But he needs to be right there or thereabouts and consistent, I think, rather than just a free practice session that he tops. He's got to be out-qualifying Max, and he's got to be right there in the races.
Closing in every session, he did say, in those immediate sort of Parc Fermé interviews.
I don't think he was closing in. He comfortably beat him in FP1 and FP2. Max was on the back foot. I think it was Checo that had found the pace early days. I think Max was struggling more with understeer on Friday, throughout the entirety of Friday. So I kind of disagree with him, what he says there. I think Max picked up the pace and Max delivered a better qualifying and clearly a better race. But he certainly had a difficult Friday.
Poor start from Perez, and that was sort of what gave us some of the interest in the Grand Prix. Got a slow getaway. Both Ferraris were either side. He ended up dropping down behind Charles Leclerc, but did a good job in that second half to close in Leclerc and get back ahead.
Yeah, it wasn't just Charles Leclerc's fresh set of softs, was it? It was Perez getting a bit bogged down off the line,
Guys,
a bit rusty.
But
here we go, big part here.
Here we go.
It was a faster car fighting against a slower car.
Yeah.
And they should have come first and second. Like we can butter it up as much as we want. Red Bull should have finished first and second, and guess what they did? So, for me,
okay.
Yeah.
Should Ferrari have finished third, Sam?
No, I think the right guy finished third. I think Fernando Alonso, without the touch at turn 4 from his teammate, and then he gets overtaken by Russell. He got sat behind Russell for a good first third of the race.
Yeah.
And that really slowed him down and put him back in an awkward position where he was fighting against people he was much quicker than. Then he used good strategy, good tyre conservation, and some amazing manoeuvres. I've got to say that the battle with him, Sainz, and then him and Hamilton was scintillating, wasn't it? But I think that Aston Martin currently is the second best package out there in terms of race pace.
I quite like how you described it, Jack. Audacious and delicious.
Did I say that?
You did. That was beautiful. Beautiful descriptive
I was just
words.
describing Fernando. I wasn't even describing the driving. No, but they were some great overtakes, weren't they? And overtakes that you don't normally see. That was the cool thing.
Yeah,
It wasn't a drive-by DRS kind of vibe.
Yeah, it was a proper overtake where he'd really thought about manoeuvring Lewis in certain scenarios. You know, he would go wider and then do the cutback and then do the same on the next corner, and then he got him into the 9-10. It's a hairpin with a beautiful switchback move. And that he'd worked that for 3 corners in a row to manoeuvre him into that position.
I quite liked how Lewis did try to fight back. There was a little bit of clawing him back, wasn't there? It was great. I enjoyed it. And actually, Lewis looked so buoyant in the media pen. He really enjoyed it too, I think.
Yeah. Well, we'll hear from Hamilton in a moment. First, let's hear from the man of the moment, I suppose, Fernando Alonso, after finishing third.
Fernando, congratulations. You still got it. Still got it.
I mean, I'm always motivated.
Yes.
And I think that energy is now you can feel it on the team as well. All the mechanics, the engineers, everyone is working flat out. Very, very motivated to make a good project in Aston Martin, and let's try to use that energy into more performance.
You said your target was to be in the points this year. Have you got to reassess now and set yourself a different target?
I hope so, but I'm just on a dream right now, and it's like too good to be true, the whole weekend. So still with the feet in the ground, trying to go to Jeddah. Very cautious there because it's a high-speed corner circuit in Jeddah, also in Australia, so very different than Bahrain. So let's see if it was, just track-specific performance from Aston Martin, or we really have this amazing car. So finger crossed we can repeat the performance in 2 weeks' time.
Let's see how long the dream lasts. Thank you, Fernando.
So Alonso declaring that they have the second-best car in Formula One. Is he correct?
Oh, it's difficult with the reliability issues that Charles Leclerc had. It's difficult to get a full picture, isn't it? And I'd like to have seen him battling Charles. Obviously, he made fairly light work of Carlos, but I don't know. I think we have to wait a little bit longer. Don't you think? This track is a bit specific, Sam?
I think they've got the third fastest qualifying car, which means that they should be qualifying 5th or 6th. But I think they've got the second best race car. So that's the interesting fight right now, the battle between Ferrari in qualifying, maybe battling Red Bull, but then falling away in the race and falling into the clutches of the likes of Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso. That's the interesting dynamic, I think, for the next couple of races. I can only assume that Red Bull are going to be a little bit dominant at the beginning of the season. But I'm very interested between the Alonso versus Ferrari battle.
So we're going to start walking, guys. We've been lurking outside of the back of the Ferrari garage, but I feel like stretching my legs a little. So we're now just meandering down the paddock towards kind of Aston Martin sort of vibe. Because we heard from Fernando Alonso there. Aston Martin, they build a quick car. Fernando was really gushing in his praise of Lance Stroll, wasn't he? Which I found quite interesting.
Always good to keep your teammates on the side, I guess, and your boss.
Is that the game he's playing? Is it that transparent?
Look, it's race one. It's race one, and that they want to create this brilliant atmosphere to create a good working environment. I think when he gets shown the replays of turn 4, lap 1, I think that he'll go, okay.
Because we don't think he knew that it was Stroll that hit him, right?
He didn't know. And I think maybe Aston Martin might sort of delete the footage. Oh, no, we don't know who did that. No, it must have been somebody else.
It was, who was it who got blamed famously? Who was it who Grosjean blamed for hitting him in Baku?
Ericsson. Ericsson hit me.
So they'll come back in and they'll be like, Fernando, it was Ericsson.
Yeah, exactly.
It was Ericsson. But Stroll did do he came through and finished 6th, but a solid enough effort considering his run up to this Grand Prix weekend.
Did a really solid job, guys. I wouldn't say I'm blown away, but it was a fairly heroic effort. Bearing in mind, this guy had surgery on his hands less than 10 days ago. That's a massive effort. It doesn't matter that the car has power steering and things like that. This is a very high, intense sport. And he deserves some credit for that.
When he came into the media pen, he was sort of circling his wrists and feeling
give him a high five. That was a bit of a harsh move, Rosanna.
Could you imagine? But he did say he's looking forward to some ice, some physio. I think he was in pain. He's still in his flip-flops or his sliders, guys. His sliders.
That's the word I was looking for yesterday, because they weren't flip-flops. They were like... Yeah.
Sliders.
Yeah, they were sliders. That's exactly what they were.
But I think
I don't own a pair. Do you own any sliders?
No, we've been through this. I'm not cool enough for anything like a slider.
Do you wear sliders, Sam? I can imagine you've got some sliders, haven't you?
Well, right now, can I just say, obviously this is radio, so I've got to sort of make you imagine this.
Yeah, paint us a picture, Sam.
I am, I don't know, gnome size, and I'm stuck between two people that are very, very tall. So I think next time I come to the track with you two, I'm going to have to wear...
stilettos.
I'm going to have to buy myself some Louboutins or something just to keep up with you two.
Other high heel brands are available.
Absolutely.
Well, when we started this paddock walk, suddenly me and Rosanna sort of took off a little. And
Sam's jogging along.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for every one of your steps, I'm doing 3. So my step count today's massive.
Yeah, but you don't own sliders? Or you do own sliders?
I've got a pair of sliders, yeah.
Of course he has.
Of course he does. Of course he does. I only have sandals that I wear with socks. But anyway, point being, Lance Stroll, I think we were talking about. Well, here's a good example, right? When we started this walk, we were down at the top end of the pit lane. We're now up at Aston Martin, and it's taken us a good, I don't know, few minutes to walk up here in some nonsense footwear conversation. And that's how far down the grid Aston Martin were last year. So I think I can't remember, Rosanna, a time where a team's gone from nothing to this level of competitiveness overnight.
2009.
Yeah,
Bronze.
2009,
Okay,
No, okay, sorry, I can, but not for ages.
yeah, exactly. No, this is awesome. I think this is what we've all been wanting. This is why Formula One tweaked the rules and regulations, and it's probably why Lawrence Stroll thought this would be an attractive business venture for himself. And hey-ho, here we are in 2023, and it's coming good for them.
But Gene Haas comes in, right, and thinks I can start a Formula One team, and then we can win races, and it doesn't work out. You know, the Bahraini family come in and take over McLaren, thinking we can push this team back to the front again. There's loads of teams here with a huge amount of investment, with a huge amount of infrastructure, with this belief that a load of money will get you back towards the front. It doesn't, and it hasn't happened so far.
No, but I think that those three teams that you've just named, they're all very different examples. You know, the Aston Martin team has been a Formula One team for 30 years or so, when Eddie Jordan had a team back in Formula One, and it's changed names many times over the course of the years. Gene Haas has created a brand new team. What was it, 6 or 7 years ago now?
Yeah.
But Aston Martin coming in, that's a very big brand that he's bought into. I think he's done a good. Lawrence Stroll has done a pretty solid job, actually, of giving a new factory, investing wisely there, recruiting the right people, buying in the right driver in Fernando Alonso. You combine all of those things together, and them falling into place over the last 2 years. You didn't see the results of it last year, but this year certainly coming to the fore.
So, in between the two Aston Martins, which we're now lurking outside Aston Martin, just in case anyone interesting comes out, but currently it's just a man I don't recognise with a big suitcase. But I want to know what's in there.
I think that's Lance's physio, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the guy who's got him back to his best. He's carrying his physio bed.
Yeah, it's not a suitcase, is it? It's one of those fold-up massage tables. Okay, so there we go.
Looks like
Job
he
done.
Could lift more than quite a few people in the gym. He's a fit fellow.
Yeah. Do you lie down to have wrist physio, Sam? Or do you sort of sit? Because presumably you had some after your...
Yeah, I sort of semi lie down, as if you're in economy and sort of you press
sort of
the
slightly
button.
reclined.
Do you know
Slightly
what that's like,
reclined.
Sam?
Yes, I do. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. I was ahead of Sam on the plane. I was in row 20 on the way out. He was down in 27k.
Yeah, and Jack got recognised on the plane and I didn't. So I was particularly unimpressed with this.
Yeah, he's not over that at all.
No.
What even was I talking about? In between the two Aston Martins was Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. We don't really have a huge amount to say about Sainz. He had that fight with Alonso and managed to hold off Hamilton, but he was a long, long way back from his teammate Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, I think today's been a reality check for Ferrari. Obviously, the reliability issues for Charles Leclerc. I think they've got to get to the bottom of what that was. You saw on the dash, didn't you, Sam, a box to refill? I asked him about that, but he wasn't very forthcoming.
Well, I don't know whether, again, it's some kind of pneumatic pressure issue or whether it was a fuel pressure sensor issue, but box to refill, to me, and maybe to some other people, just simply sounds like you need to box because we need to refill. Maybe the software was telling the car that it didn't have any more fuel. I really don't know. Maybe we'll get some answers over the next couple of weeks, but yeah, very, very strange.
Well, when I spoke to Carlos Sainz then in the media pen to ask him about his race, as we just see Lance in his sliders.
Yeah, there
sliders.
They are.
Yeah, Carlos
Is that
was
the
saying,
official jingle?
Yeah.
It's making me hungry, actually, for 3 little beef burgers.
Yes, exactly. That's what I always think when I think of sliders first, actually. Yeah, Carlos was saying that the gap
There was a
to Red Bull-
1990s sci-fi show called Sliders, I think, where they would jump through this wormhole and go to different realms in different time periods.
A wormhole?
Yeah, a wormhole is it's a sort of distortion in the space-time continuum that when you go through it, you end up in another place and can travel massive distances over really short periods of time.
Sam's just shaking his head at you, Jack.
Yeah.
Can I finish off that little bit about Carlos?
Yeah.
That I think today they did as much as they could do, and they couldn't take the fight to Red Bull and Aston Martin. So I think there are going to be some big conversations between now and Saudi for Ferrari. Not the way they would have wanted to start it. But actually, P4 with one DNF, okay, not great, but P4 at least.
It's the reliability again, isn't it?
Yeah, but he actually had a component change, didn't he, before the race as well?
Yeah.
So
New battery.
new battery. So already he'll have to take a new component of some sort in Saudi in a couple of weeks' time as well. That's already 2 components down on the changes. So not ideal start for Charles Leclerc. I want to speak about a little bit further down the grid, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
I thought Alexander Albon did a really
we were going to get there.
job.
We were going to get there.
Well,
do you
no,
want
I
to
just
go to
thought-
Albon now? We can do Albon now. Let's do it.
I thought I'd give it a go.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm taking the lead.
Yeah, okay.
Why not?
I love
I
it.
haven't led a race in a long time, so I wanted to take the lead.
Lead the race review.
Yeah,
Try that.
exactly.
Why not?
New York
If I ca-
2021, I believe.
No, I led in Saudi. Thank you very much for most of the race.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Well, no, not maybe. I know I led the
I'm
race.
just trying to remember. I can't. Where?
I came third
Yeah.
in Saudi Arabia about a month ago.
I can't.
My 100th race.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm
My
there. I'm
God.
there. All these races
You
blur
are the
into one.
commentator.
I know, but all I do is watch motor racing, and it all
Oh,
blurs. And in
God.
fact, I'm excited to get back
Anyway,
to the
let's
hotel
get back to
tonight.
Formula One.
Get a little bit of room service and watch the IndyCar race. I'm buzzing.
I thought Alexander Albon did a really good job today. And to be
Yeah.
fair, so did Logan Sargent. In his first race in Formula One, I thought he drove very nicely.
Yeah, he was saying to me that he ticked everything off the list, Logan, obviously first race in Formula One. But interestingly, they were running different packages across the Williams cars. So they're going to have to pick a direction because actually they went pretty well, both of them, didn't they? So where do you go from now? You've got 2 different packages at the first race.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because Logan Sargent was looking quite feisty at various points towards the end. He was really getting stuck in. So I think a really positive day for James Vowles and Williams. And actually, you spoke to him on the grid before the race, didn't you? And he sounded really
His usual cheeky self when he
Yeah.
told me that he'd been hiding from me all weekend. Hadn't managed to congratulate him on the new role.
But what he meant
in
by that
person.
was he's down this end of the paddock where you don't bother coming.
No,
Basically.
exactly. I'm so used to just popping into Mercedes and having
Yeah.
a coffee. No, I think
Coming
he's
to
going to
see
be.
him is like coming to see Sam in 27F. It's like you just don't do it.
No, I think he's going to be a great figurehead for Williams, actually.
Yeah.
And I think Alex Albon, you can see that he's super happy to have James leading the team now, and they can learn loads from James. He's had an amazing career. I was going to say stint at Mercedes. Chief strategy. He knows his onions.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Let's speak about his former team then, Mercedes, because Hamilton and Russell. Hamilton finished in 5th place. Russell finished in 7th. Hamilton this is what he had to say to Rosanna after the race.
Lewis, you look very smiley after that race. What did you enjoy about it, and what work is there to do?
I just enjoyed. I love driving, and I wasn't bouncing. Like my brain is intact. All my feelings are still. My teeth are still in my mouth. So don't have any pains in my back. So I just generally enjoyed the drive, and I enjoyed that I managed to have a couple of battles, and it was close, but not quite there. And I've had many cars like this, particularly back in the McLaren days. And I don't know when or how we're going to do it in terms of turn it around, but yeah, it's going to have to happen.
What is the process from now then? How do you regroup tomorrow? George went backwards, you went forward. So where do you steer the ship?
It's really about last year there were things I told them, I said the issues that are with the car. Like, I've driven so many cars in my life, so I know what a car needs, I know what a car doesn't need, and I think it's really about accountability. It's about owning up and saying, yeah, you know what, we didn't listen to you, it's not where it needs to be, and we've got to work. We've got to look into the balance through the corners, look at all the weak points, and just hurdle up as a team. That's what we do. We're still multi-world champions, it's just they haven't got it right this time. They didn't get it right last year, but that doesn't mean we can't get it right moving forward.
Good luck with that.
So sort of, don't quite know how to describe Hamilton this weekend, because sort of positive but negative, optimistic yet pessimistic. A man of multitudes often, and known more so than today.
Yeah, very smiley. That's what I said to him. You look really smiley. That wouldn't have been what I would have thought I'd seen when he came into the media pen. But he's happy. I think he had a nice battle. He's not where he wanted to be, but he gained places. I think there's work to do, and I think he was saying, hold our hands up and say we've gone in the wrong direction. George, when I spoke to him, he was saying that they've been too conservative. So I think there's going to be some sort of change in terms of their design concept. But, interesting. And they were talking about how the porpoising has gone, and George actually says he thinks what the FIA have done, it's actually too drastic. That yes, they're not bouncing around. Lewis said, my fillings are all still in the same place and my head's not hurting, my back's not hurting. So that's great, obviously, from a comfort point of view. But yeah, George saying that actually it's almost too much now. So I don't know. You can't win, can you, in this? They literally can't win in this.
Exactly. I think this year only Verstappen can win by the feels
Jack,
of it. No, that was just a little bit of a quip.
Okay, sorry.
Sam, Hamilton could have... He wasn't far away from having a go at Sainz. They can kind of race the Ferraris. I know it's not where they want to be, and Hamilton did say to you, basically they're going backwards. They're on a downward trajectory, which if you plot their course over the last 4 seasons, 2020, 21, 22, 23, all of those plots on that graph would create a downward slope.
Yeah, and it is frustrating for him, and you can sense that in his body language, in his tone of voice sometimes in some of the interviews. But genuinely, after the race, he seemed positive and like trying to rally the troops a little bit. Guys, we've got work to do, but really, I'm really happy with this start. I know it's not where we want to be, guys, but I trust you and I believe in you, so let's get to work. Let's try and fix this, was his message over the radio. I think he's probably happy that Ferrari aren't a million miles up the road with regards to their race pace, especially Carlos Sainz. I think that probably pleased him a little bit to kind of smell blood in the water there with the Ferrari package in a race run. But clearly, he'll be smarting a little bit, but that his title rival that just pipped him to the post a couple of seasons ago in Max Verstappen is so far up the road in his Red Bull that is difficult for him to swallow.
So a few other mentions further down the grid. 9th place finish for Pierre Gasly from the back of the grid, which was a solid effort. His teammate Esteban Ocon appeared to collect all the penalties before retiring. 5-second penalty for being in the wrong grid slot, and then a 5-second time penalty for not taking that 5-second time penalty, and then he got a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane when he came in to serve his 5-second time penalty. Tough.
Yeah, it made for grim reading, didn't it? It was just an unfortunate way to kick off the campaign. But actually, conversely, his teammate, Pierre Gasly, his new teammate, was extremely pleased with that. And he thought, actually, that P8 was on the table as well. So I think they're looking optimistic on that side of the garage. I think Ocon will be looking for, whatever you want to call it, redemption or a comeback in Saudi.
There was the Hasses struggled and fell back down the order a little bit. AlphaTauri kind of nearly got some points with Tsunoda. They and De Vries had a little bit of a nice battle, but an Alfa Romeo as well was sort of threatening the points. Bottas did a reasonable drive. Bottas finished in the points,
P8,
didn't he?
yeah, P8. And actually he said he was super pleased because the cars ahead are just too fast, and he was quite pleased because they had quite an aggressive strategy, didn't they? So, coming out attacking, and actually when there's reliability issues, which inevitably there are at the beginning of the season, if you're there or thereabouts, you're going to pick up some points, and that's obviously going to be really important for them throughout the season, as it is for everyone.
8th is now kind of best of the rest, isn't it?
Yeah.
Seems that way, yeah, now that 4 cars are up there.
Yeah.
I think they've got a good base to work on, the Alphas. I said that in the preview show. No one believed me.
No, we believed you. We didn't not believe you.
It'll probably all come undone and I'll be just rubbished.
No, you're not right. You were right. You were right. Best of the rest. McLaren, finally, are the last team to sort of talk about. They, again, what a sort of roller coaster of a weekend. They looked slow, then they looked not too bad, and then they qualified, struggled for Piastri, but Norris was in 11th and was looking to fight further forward, and Norris was running strongly, actually. He was running 11th in the early stages there, splitting the Williams, which is not like something to write home about, but was at least in points contention.
We said they were going to be fighting the Williams, but it was on the back row, and suddenly they were fighting in the middle of the pack. I was like, oh, okay, not what we were expecting, but cool.
But neither making it to the end of the both having technical problems. It seemed like every time Norris came in, they had to put like the pneumatic pressure in, and then Piastri's car just retired, just broke down.
Yeah, so on the face of it, really tough weekend. and we know that they've been struggling for pace. But what I would say is the last 15, 20 laps, Lando Norris was sat behind the group fighting for third, fourth and fifth. And he wouldn't let them go. He was stuck on their pace. So I think they can take a little bit of confidence from the pace that they showed towards the end of the race. At least that gives them a little bit of momentum.
Poor Oscar.
Poor Oscar, I know, not even being able to get a first race under his belt. I think disappointing. I think he'll just want to sort of turn the page on this one and go again. But yeah, it's just annoying when it's reliability issues rather than making a mistake, because he was also honest during the weekend saying I'm making some mistakes, and I think he needed the race to work out things in the car and develop his driving in Formula One. He's not been in competitive racing for quite a long time now. We just watched Fernando go past. It feels like he won the race. I don't know about you. I know he's with the Spanish media at the moment, but I don't know, there's like an element of almost, did he win the race or did Max Verstappen win the race?
Well, he won the sort of actual race where people were actually racing each other, didn't he?
True,
Whereas Max Verstappen won the parade up at the front. Obviously a long way to go in this season, a lot of development to come, but I've said the word ominous about 1 million times today, so I'll make it 1,000,001.
Better than porpoising. That was 2022's word. Maybe 2023 is ominous.
Well, I always thought that Mercedes porpoising was fairly ominous, actually, at the same time. But ominous today from Red Bull, and it's tough to see anyone stopping them. Please listen in Saudi Arabia in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, it's a little bit scary. There is something that has never, ever been done in Formula One, and that's all the wins for one team, or even all the wins for one driver. I'm not saying that that's going to happen this year. We've had one race, so but with that kind of pace and dominance over everybody else, and with two drivers that are driving very well, right now it's hard to see anybody else legitimately getting close.
Yeah. Is the record still McLaren in 88?
Yeah.
Won 15 of 16?
15 of 16 or 15 of 17.
But did Mercedes got close, I think, in 20 something?
They won 18 of 20, was it? Or
yeah, maybe it was
or
that.
17 of 20? Not bad.
Yeah, something like that. So
do you know what? I don't actually mind if they take all the wins. I actually think we had quite a nice race. I know people are a bit like, oh, it was
no. I
Max's
agree.
dominance, but I do feel like we got a bit of everything. We got some wheel to wheel. We got some drivers making mistakes. We got some reliability. We got some, I don't know, some excitement to kick off
nice
the season.
racing, actually.
Yeah.
The Alonso moves were great. Was it Alonso? No, who was it? Overtook Russell, and then Russell tried to hang on.
Yeah.
That was good stuff.
That was with Alonso as well.
It was Alonso,
Alonso made the show today. Thank goodness for Fernando.
In the race for third place.
Yeah.
No, I think it's okay. I think we'll be okay. Will we be okay?
Oh, good. Oh, thank goodness for that.
Into, like some kind of therapy session.
I think it'll be okay.
Yeah, we'll be okay. We'll be okay, Rosanna. It'll be. If you stay with 5 Live and don't go to the dark side at F1 TV, we'll be all right.
That's where I'm heading next.
Oh, great. Great. But thank you for joining us this weekend, Rosanna.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Sam, hopefully you'll be back at various points this season. Well, I know you will. I don't know if you will. We'll work that out. We'll have offline chats about that.
Yeah, cool.
Maybe the most pointless question of the day. Driver of the day.
I love how you passed me the mic then, and I've already got my own one. I really enjoyed the battles that Fernando Alonso gave us. Although the thing is, if we caveat the Red Bull thing with the budget overspend, and maybe that's had an influence on how well they're going to do this year, if you perform like that, you deserve to win. You deserve to win the championship. So Max Verstappen, he's brilliant. But Fernando Alonso, I'm glad to see his brilliance shining through again.
So the answer was Alonso?
Yes, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, Alonso closely followed by Verstappen and then Gasly for me.
Gazzo getting an honorary mention.
Well, he came from last on the grid to get
it.
points, so well done.
I think it's got to be Alonso, hasn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
he was just tremendous.
Alex Albon, actually, I know we spoke about Williams earlier, but he said, I know everyone's looking at Aston Martin because they've made the step on, but he's like, we have made an unbelievable step on. So they've sort of gone unnoticed. I know we scored points, but actually they are ones to watch. I'm quite excited about them. There you go.
Right.
Starting to sniffle now.
Yeah.
I've got a full-blown cold while we've been recording this.
Exactly.
In the desert.
Well, it's right. Time for you to have some rest, Rosanna, and time for us all to have a little bit of rest. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time on the Thursday, I imagine. imagine, before the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix with our preview show, and then obviously all the podcasts over the weekend. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live. Time for us to leave Bahrain, and we will speak to you ahead of the next Grand Prix, where Max Verstappen will arrive as the championship leader, having beaten Sergio Perez and Fernando Alonso to victory here in Bahrain.